Morning, everybody. We are going to do the part 2 of our eBay refresher library. And I'm just going to go over the topic we have today, and then we will stop the recording and ask any questions anybody may have. And this will be available for the group in Patreon and the library making. It will also be available on YouTube. Probably it should be Thursday. It'll be available. So today the topic is sourcing. And so sourcing has many different avenues and issues and ups and downs, but it's really important to our business, whether we're doing too much of it, too little of it, all of the above, whatever. So the very first thing I'm going to say right out of the gate is, if you have a death pile, why are you sourcing? If I could just make like a big banner and a sign like that, that's like my motto. Like if we have a death pile, that death pile needs to be down to a workable queue before we are actively sourcing. That is my opinion. That'll always be my opinion. So a workable queue to me is about anywhere from 3 tops 4 weeks of inventory in a queue ready to, it's processed, ready to be listed. That is a workable queue. That is not a sack tied up in the corner, and I might get there sometime. That's not a workable queue. That's not. So if you have a death pile, please address your death pile before you are continuously sourcing, because it will kill your business off. So I've seen it happen. It's not good. So please make sure that if you have death pile, we are sourcing from the death pile. That's my if everybody follows that, they will be well off, much better of a resource sourcer later. So we need to define what your sourcing model is. Is your sourcing one where you have a budget? Do you set yourself, I have this many dollars to spend a week, where I can only spend $10 this week, or I can only spend $20 this week, or whatever it is? Do you have that where it's just your set amount? Or do you take your profits and source with that profits? Do you have we have to have something to kind of give us a little bit of a guideline on what we're going to spend on sourcing. The minute we just free for all source, it's an issue. So also track how many items you're sourcing at a time. So I need to know, am I sourcing enough items? That's my biggest problem a lot of the times, is, am I sourcing enough to get through to my goals? So I keep track of how many items I source every time I purchase things. And by item sourced, which is also for our cost of goods, to me, that's a individually listable item. So if I buy a lot of 10 and 5 of them are no good, I sourced 5 things. I did not source 10 things. So sometimes that's an easy way for us to lie to ourselves, is if we buy 10 things and then we divide it by, let's say, $10, then we're like, I only paid $1 a piece, but you threw 5 in the garbage. Nope, you did not just pay $1 a piece. So don't lie to ourselves about things like that. But we need to make sure that we are tracking how many items we're sourcing, because lots of times if we did, you'd realize, oh, I sourced 500 things this month and I listed 50, right? So what happens then? Then we end up with these huge death piles that nobody wants to deal with. And by the time you get to the death pile, you're not excited about it anymore, and you want to keep buying new things. And then what happens? We go broke. That's what happens. So that's the gist of that. So please don't oversource. Please at least track how many items you're sourcing. Track the dollars going out for sourcing, not only for tax purposes, but for bookkeeping purposes, to make sure that you're going to be able to meet your goals. So financially, we need to define what model we're doing. So we need to make sure that our sourcing is supporting our selling. So we don't want our selling to be supporting completely our sourcing, as far as like, we don't want to be oversourcing. So you can source a little extra if you want to build that queue. But by little extra, I mean maybe 10 or between 10 and 15% of what we're listing a week. So don't get stuck also in that cheap. It was cheap. I got a good deal. Okay. Like, I get it. We all love a good deal, but everything that's cheap and a good deal does not need to come home with you. So if it doesn't have a good sell-through rate and is a good deal, so in different niches, that whole sell-through rate fight back and forth can be argued, right? I sell in a low sell-through rate niche. Jewelry is a low sell-through rate niche. Vintage jewelry is. However, if I sold in clothing and shoes, I could go and look up almost every single thing and say, this is what sell-through rate this item has. Therefore, I would have no excuse to be bringing home anything, let's say under a 50% sell-through rate, maybe better. I would have no excuse to do that because I have that knowledge at the tip of my fingers. So why would I bring home things that I know are going to take forever to sell and there's 500,000 of them on eBay, right? No excuse to do that. If I'm in a low sell-through niche, then I need to do things to increase that sell-through rate. So my things are just knowledge and knowing what's going to sell fast in my category. So I don't ever knowledgeably bring in stuff to my business that I know is going to take forever to sell, no matter how good of a deal I got. So don't fall into that sourcing trap of, I only go on 50-cent Fridays. I only go on half off Saturdays. Because you know what's left there? Crap. That's what's left there, right? Most of the time, not always. Don't come at me saying, oh, I get good stuff. Okay, I'm sure you do. However, when it gets down to that final discount, most of the time you're not going to get the prime stuff. And I want the prime store giving me the prime income. And to do that, I have to make sure I'm sourcing at the top of my prime. So just don't get stuck in that, I got a good deal and I had to bring home everything and the whole entire table because it was cheap. It doesn't usually it ends up in a big bloated eBay store of things that aren't moving fast enough. So we really don't want to keep encouraging our hoarding. And that's one way we can hoard and not source. So I tell everybody in the group all the time, let's source with intention. If we source intentionally and with intention, we will make better decisions for ourselves. I don't usually make purchases on a whim. I don't make huge big buys without really crunching the numbers. When we don't source intentionally with figuring out the numbers, looking at the sell-through rate, looking at what it's going to actually sell for on eBay, if that's our platform, we're not sourcing intentionally. So don't do a quick Google lens and say, oh, it says $75. I better buy it for $5. And then you realize, okay, people are listing it at that, but none of them are selling for that. That's a trap people are falling into with Google Lens, is they have to do it quick. Now I may use Google Lens quick to see if it's, looking high and then go on, because if I do a Google Lens and it says $10, it's automatically probably not for me. So it is a good tool. However, we need to be mindful that it lies, right? The things people are listing things for are not realistic a lot of the time. So make sure we're buying with intention. Make sure we have some decision filters built into sourcing, right? So my model is that I want about a quarter of my store to be the good stuff, not just the good stuff, but like the real bangers. I want 25% of my store to be that way. A lot of people are like, well, why would you do that when you can do all 100%, knock it out of the park stuff? You know why? Because I can't do it without going broke. That's the real end of it. Because then my cost of goods go way up. If I could keep my cost of goods the same and find only the really good stuff, absolutely, but I can't. So when I start outlaying those big bucks, because I want everything to be that level, my money sits out there too long, because it doesn't, in jewelry, old jewelry, lots of times those higher dollar things have lower sell-through rates. So I'm waiting to get my money back longer, and I could really just keep redeploying it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times over and make a lot more money. And it took me a long time to figure that out, that the entire banger store didn't really work out for me. It may work for you, but make sure you're doing the numbers on how long those bigger dollars are hanging out there when you could be reinvesting them over and over. So mine is 25% that, 75% what I call bread and butter. Now, if I hear one more person say, well, this was a bread and butter item, we all have bread and butter items, and their items are profiting them $1 or $2, unless you're selling a whole lot of those items, that's not a good bread and butter. So for me, my bread and butter is listing at $30 is what I want my bread and butter to be. Do I list things less than that? Absolutely. Am I trying to get away from that? Yeah, I really don't want to list anything under 25. I really would like to not list under 30, but I know it's going to happen. So bread and butter to me doesn't mean I'm being lazy and it was cheap and I bought it anyway without thinking and I'm putting it in my store. That's not what bread and butter is to me. Bread and butter means that's what makes my business run. Things that sell over and over and over, things that are predictable sellers, things that I know will sell, but maybe they're not over $50. So the 25% tier to me is listing $50 or more. This is in that $30 to $50 range. That's my bread and butter. Does it include some $25 stuff? Yes, it does. When I'm out on the, sourcing, whether it's an auction, online auction, whether it's in person, in my head, something quick that I do is I think, can I take the buy cost times 5 and very easily list my item for that amount? And if I can't, I'll leave it there every time. So if I pick up an item that costs $5 If I can't list it for at least 25 easily, I leave it there because that's not a good use of my capital then. So I want to be able to at least 5 times list price my money. The double your money is you could talk yourself into, well, if I spend $100 then to make $100, like I'll do that every day of the week. So if I can do that tomorrow, yeah, I will. If it's going to take me 2, 3, 4, 5 months, I'm leaving it there. I don't have to, my money can be back to me 4 or 5 times um, than that in that period of time. So I need that money to redeploy. So living on $10 profit, net profit items gets really rough. Is a doable, viable business. It can be done. You'll need to build a huge store. You'll be working really hard and it's going to be harder to get ahead and the burnout is real. So I'm averaging $12 to $15 net profit items across the board with my model. I'm really trying to get that pushed up a little bit because I'm going to I know that burnout's real. I'm going to have to work really hard for not as much money. So make sure you know your numbers because lots of people think they're running a $15 to $20 net profit item. They do their numbers and realize, wow, it's more like 6. So knowing your numbers is huge. If you join our group, you'll know that we are crunching those numbers. And if they're bad, they're bad, but at least we know there's no judgment, no shame, but you got to know those numbers. And net profit numbers are your real numbers. So we got to know them. Research before you source. That's my superpower. And that can be anybody's superpower. Put the time in to be doing that research. I know my niche, and that's one of the perks of having a niche is you can know it inside and out. I search eBay solds in jewelry every single day. Every day I'm in there looking to see what sold today. What was the prices? And you'll start to see trends. You do that, you sell clothes, you do that with clothes. You sell shoes, you do that in shoes. You'll see trends happening. I will see when the market's cooling off. Like I saw and noticed that Juliana was cooling off way before everybody was talking about it, right? Because I'm in the solds every day. I'm in the trenches with my products every day. And I could see, wow, the sold prices at Juliana is really kind of going down. What is happening here? Like, that's not right. Is it a fluke or is it a trend? And if you look in those solds every day, you will know the difference. Is it a fluke? Did somebody have a bad listing? Did somebody ask the wrong price? Or is this happening across the board, right? Because then you can get ahead of the trend, right? So if those prices are really going down, I'm going to cut my price real quick, a little bit, get it out of my store. Because if it's trending down, it might continue to go down and I need to get out of that market. So being ahead with that research, with that knowledge and having that power, that creates winners. If we're constantly having to comp on the fly every single item when we're sitting in the store, and if you're still doing that, kudos to you. There's nothing wrong with that because you're being careful with your money. And if you still need to do that, absolutely do it. But as you get more seasoned and as you get more in your niche and you're doing more research, you'll be able to grab things and know approximately where you're at on them. And you won't have to check every single item, right? And that makes us faster on the fly if we have to grab something off the table at an auction. And it makes us be able to make those split sections decisions like the last minute of an auction or whatever and be confident in our purchasing. So if I could tell anybody two secret sauces, it's consistency for me. eBay gives back to me what I put into it all the time. If I slack, it slacks. And the other thing is research. Know your niche. Research. I do high to lows. I do low to highs. I do recents, and I pick a category. Like one day I'll research brooches. One day I'll research new brooches. One day I'll research, a new charm bracelets, or I'll research a new brand I've never heard of. That's another thing. If I'm listening to a podcast, I'm listening to something, I'm looking at research, and I run across a brand name I've never heard of before, you better believe I'm writing it down and I'm researching it. If it's good, like I need to know because that's my job. My job is to know these things. So I will absolutely go back and I will check out that brand later when I have time because I need to know. Good or bad, I need to know. So while you're sourcing intentionally, some things I ask myself, how fast is this going to sell? How easy is it to list? How easy is it to ship? Does it stand out? Is there brand recognition? So sometimes I'll run across a necklace that is just beautiful. What am I going to call it? A shiny blue polka dotted necklace? Shiny gold tone beaded necklace? How many views is that going to get? Right? So we have to have something that stands out. Either it's got to be like, wow, like that is really nice, or it's going to fade into the background if we can't put a brand title that's recognized and searched for. So sometimes I leave things behind because I'm like, how am I going to title this to make people find it? And if I don't know, how are they going to know to look for it? If I have it in my hand and I can't tell you how to find this item quickly, how are they going to know, right? You type in blue beaded bracelets on eBay, right? You're going to get thousands and thousands of items back. How are they going to find yours? So if there's not something special about it, and it's a common, more common item, leave it at the store. So if you are selling shirts, shoes, whatever, and there's 10,000 of them listed similar to yours, what's going to make them find and buy yours? It's going to either be price or there's going to be something unique about it. That's it. So if you don't have those things going for you, put it down. Walk away from it. It's not for you. Do you like it? I know this is probably a controversial thing, but if you really don't like it and you're going to keep shoving it to the side, like, oh, I'll list that later. Oh, I'm going to list that one later. Oh, I don't want to do that today. You're going to keep doing that. So things that I have that gut feeling about, they have to have huge profit for me to do. And usually even then I just leave them behind. Are they going to be a pain to ship? Right? Some of us don't mind shipping big things. If I'm already looking at it thinking, oh, that's going to be terrible, I'm just leaving it there. If I'm dreading the shipping process, I don't need it that bad. So if there's a flaw, that's another thing, right? So no matter what niche we're in, we can have flaws, whether it's shoes, jewelry, whatever it is, flaws happen. Yeah. Sorry about that. So your item has to outweigh the flaw. So if I have jewelry that's missing a stone, do I sell jewelry that's missing stones? I absolutely do. But it's got to be a really nice piece of jewelry. I'm not going to have an ordinary $25 bracelet that's missing a stone and just put missing stone and expect them to buy it for the same price as if they went and bought one that was perfect. That doesn't make any sense. If you have a shirt that has a stain on it, and it's a $30 shirt, for one, you're asking for an INAD because maybe they don't pay attention to read the listing. And are you going to do that for $25 or $30? Because I don't want to. And why are they going to pick yours that has a flaw in it over the perfect one right next to it? So your item has to outweigh the flaw. I listed a beautiful probably late 30s pot metal brooch, but maybe 40s, early 40s pot metal brooch this morning. It was missing all sorts of rhinestones. That thing's going to sell fast. Why? Because it's unique. I've never seen one quite like it. It's heavy. It's well made. It's got really nice stones in it. And it's missing a bunch of stones, but it's going to sell because that item outweighs its flaw. So it's really important to see those things and to know what those things are. So where are we buying our stuff at? Right? Where do we get our stuff? It's going to depend on where you live and what your niche is. So when we force ourselves into a niche, that's harder than just looking around. What can I find easy? Right? So I've always said if I was going to sell clothes here, I would definitely sell farm wear because it's everywhere. I can definitely pick up some good barn farm wear around here in the middle of Iowa. I literally live in the middle of cornfields. So if I was going to sell shoes, I'd sell work boots. I can get work boots here as many as I want. So kind of trying to set yourself up to win if you're just getting started is a really good idea. Now, there aren't a whole lot of vintage jewelry honey holes around here, right? So I have to do most of my sourcing outside of my scope and online. That's fine, but you have to know what your plan is for your sourcing. If you have really good racks around, that's great. I'd rather see you go for the better quality than the cheap price. If you are willing to put the time in at the bins, though, and you have the knowledge, then do that. So you just kind of have to think about those things and try different things once you start. So we all have to really try. I've tried online auctions. I've tried local marketplace. I've tried eBay. I got some killer lots on eBay this weekend. So they're out there, but you have to know things other people don't. So I have to be able to see a lot and spot the thing that's worth money that maybe other people don't even know is there. Again, the knowledge is a superpower. So where are you sourcing at? I also think in-person estate sales is wonderful depending on your niche. Like for jewelry, it can be really good. It can be good for clothes because nobody wants to handle the clothes, right? So if you think about it, garage sales, where are there lots of clothes? There's lots of clothes at garage sales. There's shoes at garage sales. The places where people don't want it anymore, because then you are solving a problem. And when we solve a problem, on top of helping ourselves, everybody wins. So let's try to think of the ways we can source around us, and also keep track of the sellers that are good to you. Whether it's on eBay, it's on online auctions, no matter where it is, make a list of good experiences. Also make a list of bad experiences. So who way overpriced you for shipping on an online auction, right? Who didn't pack your stuff very good and it all broke? Who was rude? Who, overcharged you? Whatever it is, whatever the items were not as described, make a list. And then also keep a list of the ones that were really excellent. Maybe they didn't catch certain things. Maybe they don't care, right? So those are good things to keep track of. I have really good lists and I follow them pretty carefully. So be cautious with the lots, no matter what niche you're in. We need to be cautious with the lots because they can be the best thing ever for sourcing, but they can also sink your battleship if you buy some bad lots. And now all of a sudden not only do you not have good inventory, but now you have a bunch of bad inventory, and how are you going to get rid of it? So we don't want to source and end up with more problems than we had. However, the next section is when sourcing goes sideways. So everybody has it happen. We need to know how to deal with it. But before we get there, try different. Maybe you try a whole new way of sourcing. Maybe you're going to try to bid on an online auction. You've never done it before. I would suggest reaching out to somebody in your niche that's willing to at least give you some pointers, or maybe can walk you through how it works. You need to know if it's a soft close, if it's a hard close. Do they have shipping available? Always network. Try to be telling people around you, I sell clothes, I sell shoes, I sell jewelry. Around here, everybody knows what I do. So if somebody passes away, there's a big estate to be settled, they'll call me in for the jewelry. You need to be that person. You want to be the go-to in your niche. Run ads in your local, your local Facebook buy sell trade groups. All the time, every once I'll be like, I actually put a little picture of myself and I'm like, hey, remember me? I want to buy your jewelry. I need, if you're cleaning out closets or cleaning out, an estate, call me. I will help you. I just remind them I'm there every once in a while, and I get calls. So it works. Be a poor sourcer. Poor as in money poor. This sounds very counterproductive, but it's not. I've never outgrown acting like I don't have the money to source, because when we're really careful with our money, like it's the very last dollar we have, we will make better decisions. I went through this phase when I first started picking up volume and I was feeling successful, and my pockets were getting a little fat, right? I made unnecessary risks. I took extra risks, and I made bad choices sometimes. And I think I wouldn't have made those bad choices had I not been more conscientious of that last dollar, of being, when those bank accounts get fat, we might spend a little more recklessly. Now, I do take risks sometimes. I still take calculated risks, but I don't make knee-jerk reactions like on big lots and stuff. I don't do it. If I have to make up my mind real quick and they're not willing to let me think about it for a minute, then it wasn't for me anyway. So I don't have regret when I pass up something that could have been bad for my business. So then we go into what happens when sourcing goes sideways. Well, it's not fun, but I guarantee it's going to happen to you at least once. It still happens to me on occasion, not as often, but it can still happen, right? Maybe we didn't read the ad right. Maybe we didn't see those flaws. Maybe the lighting was bad. We didn't see all the stains. Maybe we didn't see that they were missing a bunch of rhinestones. Maybe we went on an online or on a auction site and they misrepresented the items, but now we're stuck with all of them, right? So what do? Well, we process inventory immediately, always. And tomorrow in the group's call, we are going to talk about that as a group. We're going to talk about processing our inventory immediately and making sure that we aren't always pushing it around, that we process it. We need to touch our items a lot less. That was a lesson that took me a long time to learn, but now that I'm processing immediately all the way through, boy, my life's so much easier. So I recommend that. We'll talk about it tomorrow in the group. So look that up on Patreon if you're interested. So if you're a clothing seller, it comes in the door, you put it in the washing machine. eBay requires us to have clean items, right? So if it's hanging up at a thrift store, even if it has tags on it, is that clean? It's not to me. And something I've helped lots of people through is bed bugs. I don't care where you live, it can happen to you. You do not want it to happen to you. So if you're just throwing dirty clothes in the car, you're throwing dirty clothes in your house, you are asking for it. And eventually you're going to have a bug problem. So straight from the car in a sealed bag or in a bag that, you know, otherwise you can get them in your car too. Just totally not a good thing. Straight from the car to the washing machine. That's the start of your process, right? Jewelry. It comes in the door. I open a box that comes in the mail. I'm instantly going through my process. Now, everybody's process is going to be different, but I really, really, really recommend not getting into the habit of saying, "Ooh, I want to list this right away." Cherry picking your inventory when it comes in after you source. I think that is just a recipe for a disaster. It's a recipe for a death pile. I do not cherry pick my inventory when it comes in the door. If it has a flaw I didn't see, it has something wrong with it I didn't see, it's not what I thought it was, I immediately look at it and go, ugh. And if I'm not going to list it, it goes right into a junk box, right into that junk box. So everybody needs a version of a junk box, which means it goes in, it never comes back out. You're not going to mess with that item again. So when you get home and the people that want to sort it into, well, I'll do this one later, I'll do this one right away. Ooh, I'm not sure about this. And you end up getting piles, and those piles start growing, and those piles start taking over our businesses. Not good, right? Especially in jewelry. How many people do I know go, ooh, well, this isn't good enough to list, but it's going to go in my bracelet pile. Oh, this isn't good enough to list, but I'll make a lot later of necklaces. Well, I'll make a lot of brooches later, right? And then all of a sudden we have piles of brooches, piles of bracelets to do these lots later, right? You know what it really is? If it's not good enough for us to list on our own, aren't we're just shoving our crap onto somebody else for money that's probably not worth us listing it for time that we don't have, right? So I just put them in junk boxes. I make junk lots. I make really good money off of them. I charge $10 to $15 a pound for them. They go right out the door. They take me literally zero time to do. I take a few pictures. I weigh the box. That's all I do. And I sell them all the time, right? And clothing, maybe you just redonate them. If you have fix-it piles, it's just like flaws with stuff. It better be worth it. Jewelry people are notorious for that. I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to work on it later. Ooh, I can fix that. How many times do I hear that? Ooh, I can fix that. Okay, that's fine if it's like $50 or more. If it's a cheap item, now it's taking up space. It's not earning its keep. And now you're going to spend more time on it later. That sounds like a great idea. Every time we touch an item, I tell people in the group, there's $5 because you just spent more time on it. So you had to list it, you touched it, there's $5. So if it was only a $20 item, it's really easy to suck all your profit out to begin with, right? So make sure we are sorting once, touch your items one time when we're processing it, touch again when we're listing it. And when you get that system down for yourself, huge difference in your world, right? So you either list it or you're liquidating. Those are the L's we got. We are liquidating it, we're listing it. And if you're, the lot should not be the third L. It just shouldn't be. We can do lots. Maybe it's in a liquidation way though, right? It's when we're making little baby lots and we're just fiddling with stuff too much, guys. We really are. A lot of people are taking up their whole entire profit margins fiddling. So when it's full, when your donate box or your junk box, whatever is full, take care of it. Process it. It's part of the process. Otherwise, they start building and they start taking over, and they're not making you any extra money. They're just taking it over. Remember, if it goes in the liquidate box just because it was no good, or maybe you didn't look it up and now you realize sell-through rate's awful and it's going to sit on your shelf forever and you just don't want to do it, remember that. So the next time you don't pick it up again, right? We have to have learning experiences through all of our items that end up in that liquidate box. Did we not look careful enough? Did we choose a bad source? Did we just, why did it end up in that liquidate box? So make sure you're learning your lessons along the way. So the key things that I want everybody to think about from listening to this is, stop hoarding. That's a big one. If you happen to be a previous hoarder and you have a death pile or whatever you want to, I hate calling them profit piles. I'm not calling them a profit pile. I'm calling them problem piles, because lots of times people just keep chucking stuff on them or saying, but this was such a good deal, I had to buy it, right? We don't leave those deals behind. I leave those deals behind if I have a big death pile. Yep, sure am. Because I don't need to add to my problems. So that's number one. Make sure we know our budget. Make sure we know our sourcing goals and our budget and how much money we want to allot towards sourcing so we're not over sourcing. Track how many items we're sourcing throughout the month. If they're far outweighing what we're listing, we either need to increase our listing goal or we need to decrease what we're sourcing, right? So we're sourcing with intention. We're sourcing intentionally for brands, for sell-through rate, for items. We need to source like we're poor, because every dollar does count. And that's how we end up growing this business. Every dollar counts. We need to research daily. That is a superpower. Do your research. If you're an everything seller, pick a topic, right? I think we all should end up in a niche, but I don't think everybody starts out in a niche, right? And if you're making good money being an everything seller, that's awesome too. You do you, but pick an area that you pick up things in and study that for the day. Have a process for when things go wrong, right? Things aren't always going to go right. So if you source and it's bad, have a way to get out of it. Just don't start making piles. Don't start, and don't beat yourself up over it too bad. It's done. We just got to move on. So get those things tracked, make good decisions. Hopefully these things have helped you. Hopefully people get something out of this by watching this. Our group goes over things like this all the time. So if interested, please go to Reseller Revenue on Patreon and look at joining us, because we talk about these things every day. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.